Okay, I'm Byron Connolly, Head of Programs at Adapt, and today I'm here with Damon Rees, and Damon is the co-founder of ServiceGen, which is a firm that is aiming to help governments improve their digital service delivery. Damon is also CEO at Better As Usual and is the former Chief Executive, of course, at Service New South Wales. Damon, welcome.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here. Now, this morning, Damon, here at CFO Edge, you spoke about the shift from episodic to continuous funding models when you're at Service New South Wales. This supported a more flexible product-based approach to digital delivery at Service New South Wales, which was crucial, obviously, during the bushfires of 2019 and the COVID pandemic, which closely followed. Why was it so important for Service New South Wales to make this shift?
I think for a couple of reasons. So digital is an integral part of the experience our customers have, or Service New South Wales customers have. The experience that we have when we go online or pull out our mobile is as important as the experience that we have when we go into a service centre. And so we wanted to elevate that experience in our organisation. The second is the adaptability that we needed to have, the agility we needed to have as an organisation, which is really where bushfires and pandemics sort of brought that to the fore. The ability to respond in very, very unexpected ways, with no lead time and to deliver safe, at scale, high quality outcomes very, very quickly. You can't do that if you're not there and ready to do it, if you don't have a muscle that's in place, a capability that's in place and already warmed up. And so I think, if we didn't have that capability in Service New South Wales, we wouldn't have the customer experience that we have today, and we certainly wouldn't have been able to respond in the ways that our government and communities needed.
Yeah, you're certainly leading in terms of the digital services that you're providing to citizens of 8 million citizens of New South Wales. So.
There's an extraordinary team at Service New South Wales, and a lot for us to be proud of.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the New South Wales Department of Customer Services Acting Chief Data Officer Narelle Grayson said something in the Mandarin last month, which I thought that was particularly telling. She said that New South Wales became a digital powerhouse because, and I quote, "We put the community first and we wrap government around people rather than expect people to understand the structures of government," which I think is hugely important.
Nice.
Why are so many governments not understanding this? In your view?
Look, I wonder if it's a question of not understanding it, or is it the challenge in making the move? It's not the way that government has historically been organised. And so I think individually there's probably a lot of people in government that actually understand, there's a different type of experience we'd like to light up. But I think the fact that New South Wales is such a global outlier in this space, shows actually, just because you've got an awareness that there's a better way of doing things doesn't mean you can actually shift at scale the way a complex government sector operates. And so I think we should keep raising the awareness, but I think that's then the conversation is what are all the levers that you need to pull from cultural to structural to capability to affect that shift and then start to deliver a meaningfully different outcome for your people.
It's interesting you mentioned culture there. I think one of the things when we talk about technology projects in government, but also in the private sector as well, culture is always a thing that people don't necessarily get right, that they struggle with. I understand that at Service New South Wales that kind of happened by osmosis and driven from the top down by you. You actually, that you created a good culture there to reorganise people from sort of project to product teams, and they had specific responsibilities around customer groups that they were responsible for. And I guess that they felt it was a good cultural change. What advice do you have for organisations that are perhaps struggling with culture when it comes to enterprise technology projects?
A couple of thoughts. So the great culture at Service New South Wales started well before me, and part of the choice to create Service New South Wales as a new entity, a lot of that was anchored in the culture that organisation needed to have. So, people well before me, the very deliberate choices of leadership, the very deliberate choices around the things that we're going to value around the people that we bring into this organisation, I think really, really, really important. And then as we bring that sort of product-based delivery engine in, we had a great customer service culture to build on. What we were able to then build is this kind of great digital muscle. Those environments can be incredibly empowering and rewarding environments to work in. I think our our digital teammates, I think, would feel that they're very connected to customer and very connected to, very empowered to do something about that and to bring that value through. So I think, we sort of took that great customer-centric culture and were able to kind of extend it into new areas and new ways. There was a final part to your question which I think I've missed, but do you want to just quickly?
It was very much an organic process, I've heard, there at Service New South Wales, driven sort of from the top down by you. Do you have any comments around that? Because it's oftentimes it's very forced on people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, so the reset and the rebuild of our digital capability was, I think, very deliberate. We said we must look different in this space in the future. At a point in time, we had a small internal capability. We were quite traditional in the way that we went about digital. We were fairly, extensively used partners. So we had to change the role of digital in our organisation. We had to change the operating model, deliberately instantiating these lean, agile, cross-functional, long-lived product teams. We had to rewire the funding around it. So incredibly deliberate in that sense. But I think there is this piece around how do you invite people into it rather than inflict it upon
the
it.
pain onto them.
And I still remember that very first team we created, which was going to be the model for the future of our organisation, thinking very carefully about, who are the people that really want to be in this, and who are the people that are going to be able to help their other teammates, on the journey to become part of this in the future. But part of that model is very deliberately not just how is this good for customers, but how is this model good for our people? And so I think we were inviting people into something that was designed in part to make their roles and their contributions more effective, more rewarding.
One of the things that you were able to do at Service New South Wales when you were there was, as you moved to this product-focused type model, was reduce reliance on vendors and external contractors. Do you think that's the way forward? Do you think governments generally across Australia are relying too much on external organisations to do perhaps what they should be doing in-house?
I try not to generalise, but generally yes.
Yeah.
I think the answer's not the same for every organisation. Our strategy made sense in our context, but I think many organisations do need to rethink what is the role of digital and technology in their organisation. I think there's a lot of organisations that still treat it as a commodity to be that's a distraction and just a cost to be minimised. And service is an example where actually it's core, it's inseparable from the rest of the organisation. That leads you to very different conclusions around what you must have and be very, very strong at versus what you can ask others to do on your behalf. And the collaboration, the ways of working, there's a whole bunch of things that can be really challenging under more traditional sourcing constructs, can be really challenging when you're trying to span multiple organisations with multiple operating models and multiple cultures. And so I do think you've got to rethink what is our operating model, what is the core of our business, and how do partners augment that, extend that, complement that, rather than starting from the other way around and saying, look, how do I just sort of push all these pieces out to someone else?
I want to ask you about automation and AI, because everyone in the industry is talking about it now. There's a lot to be excited about. Organisations are a little bit fearful for obvious reasons. I mean, we saw with the robo-debt debacle, for instance, how automation can go really wrong and have big social impacts.
Yep.
Do you have any advice for organisations that are, I guess, dipping their toes in AI or rolling out AI across their businesses around the sort of questions that they need to ask themselves when they automate processes, and how to strike a good balance between what can be automated and what you actually need to leave to humans?
Yeah, I mean, automation is neither good nor bad. It's that's a function of kind of how you're using it and what you're using it for. And so I think the important lessons for me from robo-debt were not automation is bad, don't use it, but there's a whole bunch of other things that didn't go that shouldn't have happened there and didn't go right. Much of that comes back to the conversation around culture. So I look at both of those technologies through the lens of what's your ultimate mission. Our mission at Service New South Wales, was our customers and to provide the very best experience and access to government services we could. So where automation helps that, where AI helps that, we should be embracing those technologies, I think.
For sure.
Our ways of working and our culture means Service is really well positioned to embrace them thoughtfully and carefully and in alignment with their core purpose. So I think there's a lot there. But if your anchor's not right, if your culture's not right, if your operating model for how to introduce and apply any form of technology is not right, then I think, in the case of AI, I think you could do a lot of damage very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of questions that need to be asked there by organisations when they actually do put this stuff into practice. We've got to make sure we have the checks and balances in there and some gatekeepers there to make sure that this doesn't happen.
And always a means to an end. Digital's never an end in its own right. It's always a means to an end. It's always an enabler. Just never lose sight of that.
Final question for you, Damon. I speak to a lot of CIOs throughout my day. And I've been dealing with CIOs for the past 10 years. You're a CIO. What advice do you have, I guess, for senior technology leaders who are perhaps looking to move into chief executive type roles like you have? What was your thinking when you actually did that? When you moved from sort of technology leadership roles to the sort of chief executive type roles that you found yourself in recent years?
I like this idea that we've all got multiple jobs. I may be the CIO of an organisation, but I'm also a member of a leadership team, but I think the simplest bit of advice I could give anyone, CIOs, in any role that's looking after a part of the organisation, is put the CEO hat on. Like, what does it look like when you're thinking about the entire organisation, not a part of the organisation? How does that inform your view on the very best way for you to contribute and have impact against the outcomes of that organisation? I think CIOs that think in a blinkered way about their scope of their responsibility, think in a blinkered way about the things that matter within that scope and aren't thinking about the whole organisation, aren't thinking about the customers and the stakeholders and the shareholders and the outcomes. Like they're missing a huge opportunity. So I think it's as simple as that. Put yourself in your CEO's shoes and how does the world look? Your board's shoes, your stakeholders and shareholders' shoes, and I think that will inform you around how to make your very, very best contribution.